Hey, what's going on, fellow side hustlers? Amir Baluch with another episode here on Side Hustle MD Summit. Today we have Dr. Heather Hammerstedt, who is the owner of Wholist, also an ER physician, lifestyle medicine doctor, and an integrative nutrition coach. And today we're going to talk about a very important topic, especially for you guys that haven't started a side hustle yet, and that's why you're on here. You know, what are some fears that you need to overcome when you're starting a side hustle? That's the topic we're talking about. Heather has obviously done that. If you just take a look at her website and see what she's accomplished, she's overcome some fears. And Heather, we're just happy to have you on here, and we'd love to hear your story.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. It's a great idea for this summit, and I'm really excited to participate and see what everyone else has to say as well. We can always learn, and we're all better together. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, awesome. I love getting this education out here, and I think this could be one of the most important initial episodes for somebody to watch, kind of get their mindset right and get some examples of successful people. So I know you started off as an ER doctor, but that wasn't enough, or maybe you wanted something more. So how did you start expanding into all these other roles?
Well, what's interesting is that I actually went and got my health coaching certificate when I was still in medical school. So I kind of went into medical school like assuming that I was going to learn about movement and mindfulness and food and all these things that like clearly they didn't teach us. So I went to a health coaching, a year-long program when I was a fourth-year med student. So this has always been something that I have really been really interested in. I was coaching kind of here and there kind of throughout the first portion of my career in emergency medicine. But, you know, you're heading, towards developing your career as a physician so didn't pay that much attention to it until about 4 or 5 years ago when I kind of really realized that there are so many people who I see at 3 o'clock in the morning in the emergency department that had I been able to intervene on 5 or 10 years earlier, maybe we could have prevented the things that they were struggling with. And so I came up with the idea of Wholist, which is a play on, hospitalists, laborists, gastroenterologists, talking about the whole person, figuring out how we can really get people to make sustainable health change by concentrating on, rewiring their brains of how they approach their health and how they make their choices, and putting coaching on top of that for both mindset and nutrition.
Very cool. Let me tell you, I'm all about nutrition. Like we were just talking a few days ago about how, I'm a specialist in performance nutrition. I was a personal trainer. I'm just really interested in health as well. So, and like what you're mentioning about food, I forgot who said it, but they're saying, let food be thy medicine. But some people forget about that, and we definitely don't learn about it in medical school. So that's cool. You're into all that, and especially this coaching that you're talking about. And one of the questions I want to ask you, so since you have this podcast, you're interviewing a lot of other doctors, other people doing great things, they've overcome some type of fears or self-limiting beliefs. So when you talk to other doctors, what do you feel like maybe, the most common self-limiting beliefs that people have that's preventing them from going out there and doing something else or doing something extra in a side hustle?
Well, I think, the process of medical training, we always know what is next, right? You have med school, and then you're going to residency, and then maybe you're doing a fellowship, and then you're getting your first job, and then you're trying to be a medical director, right? Like there's all these fairly cleared out steps, but the healthcare system, I think, has pegged us into those steps, that's like the only thing that we can do. And in some ways, a lot of us have a lot of autonomy taken away from us, especially in the last 5 to 10 years as physicians. And I think in a way that's kind of like beating us down a little bit, and the opportunity to kind of lift your head up and realize like how resilient and how brilliant we all are to have gotten to where we are, can be focused in other ways that maybe there's a hole that's you could fill and provide value in a different way. And I think just like understanding that you're more than your stethoscope and more than the hours that you put in the hospital, I think is the first step.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me because med school is so structured and your day is structured. You have year 1, 2, 3, 4 all planned out, and there's no real deviation. When you're doing a side hustle, I mean, everything is wide open. You set your own hours, you do whatever you want. Like, so it's almost like too much freedom and like an empty canvas. And, doctors are not used to that. So, overcoming that and just believing in yourself is definitely, one step in the right direction. And, when I speak to other people in the doctor's lounge, people are like, hey, Amir, I don't know. I don't think I can do this. We do actually have a stigma of being not the best business people or investors actually, which I can kind of understand that because we're very busy. We don't have a lot of time, especially if you have a busy clinic or something like that or a busy practice. But some of the things you're mentioning, we have characteristics of being a good business person, entrepreneur. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that we know how to lead teams, the fact that we know how to build teams, the fact that we can interact with people who are very different than us, and the fact that we are used to kind of running we are the person who's in charge of the decisions that you and the patient are making. All of those things make it so that you can pivot if you're okay with the flexibility and like the wide open space that can be very intimidating, and you can focus within that. I think that we're actually invaluable in terms of coming up with the ability to have a scalable business.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think to overcome some of the time constraints, you mentioned building a team, we had to save time. And the best way is with using other people's time and also using tools. Like, for example, right now we're using Zoom, so we don't have to meet up. I have a couple of VAs here. I use some email automations as well. Do you have a certain tech stack that you use either for your podcast and daily life or any other tools that you use to help you become an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. Tools and teams are absolutely essential to creating a business that is on the side of what you're doing otherwise. So most people are not going to quit medicine and start their own business, right? Most of us want to have, still have your foot in the door of medicine. You want to have the stability of that income while you're building something else. But that means that you could end up working 2 full-time jobs. And to be like, that is something you need to know right up front, is if you're starting your own business, it's not necessarily a side hustle. It's just another full-time job unless you do it smart, right? So for me, when I started Holist, I was working full-time nights in emergency medicine. I have 2 small kids. I run a nonprofit in East Africa doing emergency medicine education. Not a lot of time, right? And so what I did from right up front, which is my advice all the time when people are talking about starting their own business, is to look ahead of time about what you want to be doing and when, and figuring out how smartly to get there by using people who are good at things that you're not good at, and have the time that maybe would take 2 or 3 times for me to do, that they could do faster and more efficiently. So that meant that I was hiring coaches before I was paying myself, so that other people were doing the coaching while I was creating the business. That means that I was finding VAs who were expert in social media content creation, whether they're in or out of the country. It means that I have a person who just does all the finances, because my brain doesn't work very well like that, and I understand it. It means finding the people who, I think of like a business like a Venn diagram, right? Like, what am I really good at right here, and what are the pieces that I need to fill me out and fill Holist out? And finding those people can be tricky though, right? I mean, it's like you're going to fail and find the wrong people first, and that's okay. And then in terms of tools, I mean, I don't know if I could function without Acuity for like appointment types, a CRM like Active Campaign. I automate my entire course for the weight wellness program and the lifestyle medicine course all directly through Active Campaign. So it's not just organizing my emails and my contacts, but it like into pipelines, which is super important, but it's actually like the core of the courses that I'm teaching. And I think that it's essential for you to be thinking of what that second phase of growing your business is going to look like in terms of scalability. So like I'm emergency medicine doc, right? Like I'm all about efficiency. I don't want to touch anything twice, right? And so I feel like if I'm going to sit down and take the brain power to create something, I'm going to do it in a way that I never have to do it again, which means that finding automations like ActiveCampaign or, these calendar links and things like that are just essential.
Yeah. So a lot of good points there. Just a reminder for the doctors out there, you don't have to do everything yourself, although maybe in med school we're used to doing that and wanting to do it because we feel like we're the best at everything. Maybe.
It was hard for me to learn to delegate. It really was. And it's not always going to be like the exact way that you would do it, but that's okay. I think one of my biggest points and pieces of advice for physicians is that it's okay to be imperfect. And it's okay to take imperfect action. And I think that that's one of the things that holds us back is that you have this idea, but you're like afraid that you're going to fail or afraid you're not going to do it right or afraid it's not going to turn out just like. But the thing is about being an entrepreneur is that you just need to take a step. Could be a step to the side, could be a step forward. Maybe the next one when you get there, you didn't even realize what the paths were going to be and you're going to pivot and move. And you have to be okay with that. So I think being okay with like messy, imperfect action is essential.
Yeah, you definitely have to be comfortable with that too. And like you said, you change with the times and see what works and what doesn't work. I mean, that's just really just all part of it. Definitely taking action. Anybody that's taking action, they're going to be way ahead of somebody who doesn't take action. And you just never know what's going to happen. And you don't need to be perfect to actually be successful. So there's nobody successful that's out there that's like 100% perfect. You can be like 70% what you think you need to be and do just fine.
Well, and I think that's really important too for people who are just starting out and like looking at other doctors on social media and it looks like everything's all put together and they're so successful and we're all just people, right? We all have messy backgrounds behind the computer screen, right? And so I think that that's important too, and reaching out and supporting each other. And we're, like I said at the beginning, we're all better together and there's enough business and enough market for all of us that if we work together and support each other and realize that every step it looks different for everybody.
Now I want to go back to when you're talking about building teams because I think this is really important. When you're hiring somebody, what are some of the things you look at? Do you have a certain set of questions that you ask and how do you actually manage them from a distance? Because we all have 24 hours in a day. We can't spend all our time babysitting these people.
Yeah, I think it depends on the role, right? So for when I'm hiring mindset or nutrition coaches, I'm looking for people who understand that coaching is holding a space and not prescribing something. So it's like the personality of the person, how supportive and caring they are, as well as, what is the academics behind what it is that they're teaching. So I'm looking there for personality and how comfortable I would be telling that person my kind of inner, deepest, darkest things and what would their response be. Whereas when I'm hiring someone for my sales team, I'm looking for someone who has that same feeling when you're on the phone with them, but also isn't afraid to ask hard questions, which coaches don't necessarily, they're not asking hard questions, they're listening and supporting, right? Whereas a salesperson is going to be like, are you really ready to like act and do something about this? And if you are, let's prove it, right? And then in terms of my like administrative staff, I'm looking for people who I don't need to manage that much, right? That I can leave a Voxer message for. Oh, Voxer is the other like tech. Like I don't know how my life. Holus would not exist if not we did not have Voxer. But I can
Hockey guy. For you guys that don't know what Voxer is, basically an app that's like a walkie-talkie. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I can like leave a message for her about like 10 things that I need to be done. And I know that she is going to cross all those T's for me while I sleep off a night shift, right? And so finding someone like that, I mean, and I've failed at that position multiple times. Like I've had people that I ended up not being able to trust, but finding someone that supports and loves the vision of our company, can do all the things that I'm asking them to do, and also be like client facing forward, was really important for me for that role.
Cool. I was going to add two things from what I learned from entrepreneur operating systems. I kind of run off of, they call it EOS for short, but there's multiple systems out there, but EOS really helps scale businesses, but they have an HR segment that they teach you where you have to find somebody that has a good culture fit. So you're talking about personality. Yeah. And are they good at the tasks? And do they actually want that task? Like, what if they don't want to do what you're trying to get them to do? So that could be an issue. And you actually have a scoring mechanism, like 1 to 5 in each one of those categories. And you can say, hey, they need to score a total of 15 points or something like that to be a good fit for, the company. That's kind of what we used in the past. And still, it doesn't work 100% of the time, but it's some type of system for people out there that like systems.
Yeah, that's great. I think the point about do they want that task is essential, right? Because if I tried to get one of my coaches to get on a sales call, like would never happen, right? They would feel really uncomfortable. Whereas the salespeople, they love it, right? And I wouldn't want to be client facing like my, admin staff is every single day, helping people with their tech issues and, things like that. I think it's important. Yeah.
Another thing I do with in my e-commerce consultancy group, we have 119 employees and counting right now, but a lot of them are just doing technical tasks. So I'll just create an SOP, a standard operating protocol, and they show up every day, and this is it. Here's steps through 1 through 20. This is how you accomplish this task, and that your job is to do this task. And they just go to town, and they just can check it off. There's even software that will force them to check it off so they're doing everything exactly the way you want. Or let's say if you want somebody to check your own email or manage active campaign or upload courses in a certain way, you can just literally just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is how I did it the first time. After you do it once, like what you're saying, you don't want to touch it again, create that SOP the first time, put on a Word document, Google Sheet, or there's software out there for SOPs too, and just be done. You never have to do it again. And you can get people at $3, $10 an hour, $20 an hour, and then you go off and do your medical stuff in the meantime and let somebody else take care of that. So that's my little hack on the HR side and, teamwork side.
Yeah, 100%. We have SOPs for everything. Like every time one of us does something for the first time, whether it's like, you had an alumni come back and we had a tech glitch with their automation for their weight wellness course, right? And it's like, okay, we fixed that problem. We figured out why it happened. We'll take a Loom video and put the video of us fixing it in the SOP and then write it all out as well. And then the next time it comes up, it's like, oh, we already fixed this. Someone go look at that and fix it again,
Speaking of Loom, add that to the tech stack.
Yes.
I use it every day. I sometimes
every day.
Send an email. I just record a Loom and show something on the screen and just freaking send it.
Yeah. It's so much easier than typing stuff out. It's really
very cool. Very cool. So, and you have a pretty big podcast. You've seen a lot of success stories. Can you share like a handful of success stories, like 1 or 2 success stories of people that started from scratch and now they're doing something? Like how did that evolve for them?
Oh, like people I've had on my podcast?
Yeah, or anybody not on the podcast, just somebody else doing a side hustle and following the steps that you are kind of talking about.
Well, I don't talk much about business on my podcast. We're mostly talking about things that we wish patients knew before they came to see you. So it's more health and wellness stuff. But I have been totally amazed by how many physicians are doing really interesting things. Between podcasts on sexual health to, starting, deodorant companies to all sorts of things like that, that it's been really fun to watch people just explode in the last couple of years. Too many to count.
What I've noticed is like, as long as they're persistent about it, they're going to figure it out, and just get a mentor and follow certain processes, and you're going to get there. So, all these fears and self-limiting beliefs, like, just go for it, be persistent. There's a Facebook group for everybody on this watching this episode too. Just talk to other guys. So
I think what's important is to realize that, like, not everybody's paying as much attention to you as you think they are. So it's okay to just show up and start doing live videos and start doing podcasts and start, just put yourself out there, because people are going to, look at you and be like, oh, that's really interesting, and maybe just move on, right? So if you mess it up, it's okay. That's that imperfect action again, right?
Very cool. So to end this episode, what would you think should be the next 2 or 3 steps somebody could take today to, move forward on a side hustle?
Well, I think the first thing is just to stop and take a deep breath and realize where you are and what your own value and desires are. Like, do you want to something like extra income, or do you want to completely pivot, right? Because you're not going to start a business like mine if you just wanted a little something, right? Like, this is like a 7-figure business, right? So stopping and breathing and recognizing what it is that you want and what you envision your life to be and what your value is, that would be number 1. Number 2 would be do something imperfect today. Just anything. It doesn't have to do with starting a business. Just be okay with something being imperfect and acting on it anyway, and seeing how that feels. And I think that is a really important discomfort to get comfortable with, if that makes sense. And then I think the third thing is just start looking around and seeing what do you love to do and what are you really good at, and do more of that, right? How does you doing more of what you love add value that you don't think is currently there? It may have nothing to do with medicine, right? So I think just starting to keep your eyes open and look around and finding something you love. I think we all deserve that.
And Heather, I know we've been talking a lot about tools and other resources. I think you have some resources as well that you'd like to share with the audience that could help them on their mission to get a side hustle going.
Yeah, for sure. So first off, I have a lifestyle medicine course, and there is an affiliate link that you're going to share with them that basically is an 8-week course, audio podcast templates that you can use with clients or patients. So if you don't want to get lifestyle medicine certified, but you want this information, this is a real compact, efficient way to do that. And it's a lifestyle medicine course for physicians and practitioners. The second thing is that if you want to help your patients with sustainable weight loss and get them to stop yo-yo dieting using real food, real work, we're your people. So we can create, you can use our 12-week program where again, daily automated podcasts around mindset, around food, around nutrition, and health change that they would get every day. And then they can either do personal coaching or group coaching. And I can set up an affiliate with your office to be able to do all of that work for you and bring them back thinner, slimmer, and happier. Yes. And of course, if that's something that you're interested in as well, if you're listening and you want to fix this problem for yourself as well, would love to talk to you. And Amir has a link again that you can come on in and talk to me or talk to one of my team about which of these options is just right for you.
There you have it, guys. The links will be below, or you can check in your email or on the website, but check it out. Lifestyle medicine and being healthy and nutrition is what it's all about. Thanks for that, Heather. All right, there you guys have it. A bunch of ways to overcome your fears of starting a side hustle, a couple actionable steps here that Heather's mentioned. So no excuses, guys. Let's have at it. And Heather, thanks for coming on board today.
Thank you.